I didn't leave with my newborn twins and toddler because I didn't want them to be alone. We have a 2-year-old son and 2-month-old twins. My sister was at a meeting. I work from home. She's been living with us while her apartment building gets rid of bugs. When she met with one of her professors to talk about a project, she set up her laptop in the middle of the room. It's important to note that the kitchen is right next to the kids' play area and their bedroom. She also has her own room with a desk. In about 5 minutes into her meeting, the Wi-Fi is good enough. When he was playing with his toy trucks, my 2-year-old son got hurt and started to cry. There were no tantrums going on. He was just crying because his arm hurt. My sister walks away from her meeting for a little while. He tells me to get the kids out of the house and that she needs to be taken care of. I told her I wouldn't be able to take my 3 small children out alone without a stroller, which had been left in the car. I was sorry to hear that. My husband took a walk that morning. Because I ruined her meeting, she's been telling me for a whole week now that I need to get my kids in line. My parents agreed that I was being a little too crazy. Ada added that this is her home with her husband and their 2 children. Her husband and I were very lucky to buy a home before the pandemic, while she was pregnant with their first child. This is where they live now. In the past, my parents didn't and still don't pay for anything in our lives. They spend too much money on my sister. She gets into trouble in college, and it has an effect on them and her, but it is my last edit at home. Apparently, some people are living in a different 2021. I didn't think this had to be said. It was a meeting on Zoom. During a story about a pandemic, her graduate school professor did not come to my house for a meeting with me. He called me fat and smelly during a fight. It's been 5 months, but I can't get those words out of my head. There's no way I can have sex with someone without them knowing who I am because of my other account. My husband is from Africa and I'm from the U.S. After the birth of my son, he moved to the U.S. because he had a lot of health problems. We're still waiting for my husband to get used to. 4 months after I give birth, I yell at my husband for being lazy, and I have to do everything. On top of working from home for an IT company, the baby does a lot of housework. He also sleeps in and watches videos all day long. Though, taking charge, I told him to do something by himself, like take a training class or start a business. He says there's no point in doing anything now until he gets the change in status. I told him that wasn't true and that there is still a point. You do the groundwork first, and then I do the rest. Once you have legal status, at least the hard part will be over, at least for now. Then no housework. He told them that they were lucky that he was at home with a child. While I'm at work, I'm going to the meeting. Men in coffee shops aren't home until late. The way I said it, if I wanted that kind of man, I would have married him. There's a reason why you aren't setting high standards for yourself. I asked him why we aren't as affectionate as we used to be. In the past, he used to call me his love and hug and kiss me all the time. Now we live together as roommates in a friendship. In fact, there is no romance even when we don't fight. It was then that he said the worst thing anyone has said to me. He said that he doesn't want to touch me anymore because I smell of sweat and poop and I'm too fat to touch. After giving birth, I didn't lose weight. Instead, I gained weight and look like I'm 4 months pregnant. This is true, but it still hurts to hear it that way. In the past, I've had trouble with my sense of self-worth. I was so hurt by his words. He said, and I heard him. I called him lazy. As for me, a week had gone by, and we hadn't talked to each other at all. Finally, I raised the white flag and said, I'm sorry for the words I said to you. They heard you. He said, I accept your apology. Then everything was quiet. Was what you said to me bad? Sorry. That was. When he said sorry, I had to get it from him. As I said, I could have smelled of sweat, but he could have softly said, honey, I see that you're tired. There is no need to hurt the baby by giving him a bath and getting ready while I hold him. Afterward, he made me smell his hand and said, you smell anything. I was able to smell. There is nothing else I need to do. I can just smell my own vaginal smell. Another doctor checked me out, and I didn't have any infections at all. Things are, she said. After I poop, I use a BD and then wipe with a new wipe. My clothes don't smell like poop. There's nothing I can do about the fact that he doesn't like the smell of my vagina. And why now? In the beginning of the relationship, he said that he didn't like how I smelled. I've never had a guy say that about me before, and the way he brought it up is hurtful. A lot of his things are back. It's been 5 months. But to me they aren't, because I no longer start sex. All I can think about when he touches me is how bad my grades are, so I fake them. Is my hair smelling? Do I smell of sweat? And so on. I become even cleaner. It's still the only thing I think about when he comes close to me. He told me that he's upset that there aren't any romances in our relationship, which makes me sad. I asked why you think that way. That is what he did again. Because I told him to say them, he said them. I called him up. If I had not yelled at him, he would not have said those things. He said, "What else?" After we said sorry, we turned to a blank page. When I said that he didn't say sorry in the way that I do, hug him and say, "I'm deeply sorry," I meant that he didn't mean it. And then I said what I'm sorry for in the show. I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. The fact that I had to get him to say sorry shows that he didn't change his mind. He kept saying that he had already apologized. And what else do I need? Again, I said what kind of apology I want. When I asked him for the money, he said, "It isn't yours." I asked him if it was an ego thing. It didn't work. He said, "No, I'm not sure." Now, for the last 5 months. He's been getting a lot of help around the house. So that's the end of my complaints. Even though he now thinks that he's always been there for me and it's not because I yelled at him, he truly thinks I yelled at him for no reason. I asked him to say those mean things, so that gives him the right to say them. In addition to the in-law problems, is there any way to save this relationship? He doesn't stand up for me in front of him because he's afraid of his mother, and so he doesn't do it at all. I just don't know if it's worth it to stay in a relationship with this person. Even if we split up, I want him to get a green card as soon as possible so that he can visit his son whenever he wants, without me having to travel to his home country. TLDR, in an argument, he said I smelled like poop and was even fatter than when I had just given birth. No, he won't say sorry for what he said. Is there a way to start over? I think we talked about it. I'm 33F, and I'm very lonely. I don't know what to do. There are a lot of women in my close circle who have recently given birth or are pregnant and expecting soon, so I'm 33F. All the people talk about are there. During pregnancy, how they are feeling, how their labor went, or how they are getting along with their in-laws and their spouse. As soon as they have a baby, some people try to talk about things that aren't babies, but it quickly turns back to babies. There were times when I tried to start conversations about work or something else, but people didn't seem very interested and it quickly turned back to talking about babies. A lot of people don't have time to see each other anymore. This is what I expected, but it doesn't make it any less sad and disappointing to see. Being the only person who is not pregnant or has a baby makes me sad, but their general response was that being a parent is a lot of work. So you have no time for anything else. There are no plans to start a family for a few years. Until we try to go to war together for a few years, I feel lonely and isolated. I don't know what to do about my friends. It's true that I have some other, not-so-close friends who we connect over certain hobbies, but the relationship isn't nearly as fulfilling as the one I have with my close friends. This is because everyone has their own close group of friends. Please tell me what I can do to make myself less lonely. TLDR, all of your friends have babies, so you can't talk to them about anything else.